What's up? Oh, Facebook Live!
One of those news guys.
Hi, everyone. I think we're live today. Yes, great, we're live. Sorry for the technical difficulty. We were just hanging in there. And welcome to 2017 and with Babes with Books. This is January, and we are doing Jodi Picoult's book, Small Great Things. So many of you might know Jodi Picoult. She has a number of books. One of her most famous is My Sister's Keeper, which was turned into a film. This book, Small Great Things, is about a labor and delivery nurse, Ruth Jefferson, and she is working one evening, and it's going so smooth here. Welcome 2017.
What's up?
So it's about a labor and delivery nurse who is African American, and she is working in a hospital when a couple comes in and gives birth to their baby, and they do not want her to be taking care of their child because of the color of her skin. And it turns out that they are part of a white supremacist movement, Turk Bauer and his wife Brittany, and as the book continues, some complications arise and the baby ends up passing away. And after that, the ensuing drama that happens is kind of what the main topic of the book is. And in that is that Ruth gets charged for murder of the baby. So this book comes at a really politically charged time with the Black Lives Matter in America, as well as the election of Donald Trump. And I think Jodi Picoult really wanted to address some of these issues that were coming out. And then once the book was released around that time, it definitely did ring true for a lot of people. So we are heading into a pretty serious discussion this month, actually. When I started reading the book, I had to put it down for a while. I found it really emotionally wrenching for quite a while. The characterization I felt was really strong in the first half, definitely, of the novel. And the themes that are pursued by Jodi Picoult were just also so deep and thoughtful that I really had to take some time and put the book down at times and really think about what I had just read. So overall, I guess this is where we kind of say whether we like the book or not. I did not really like the book overall, no. But I do admire Jodi Picoult for trying to take on a really tough topic in especially in the genre of literature that she writes or fiction that she writes, because I do know that I think novelists know their main audience, and I think the audience that Jodi Picoult is writing for, I think that was a really big risk for her almost. So I really admire her for that. But overall, the book is not, it wasn't it didn't fulfill my expectations in the end. So that was something that kind of just left me feeling like it didn't satisfy me. How about yourself, Leslie?
Well, I find it interesting that you say you didn't like the book, and I want to delve a little bit deeper into that because I'm curious of what the root reason why you didn't like it is. Is it just the ending? I read your Goodreads review, so...
You little cheater!
I read yours too.
Oh, you!
It's interesting. So I gave it 4 stars on Goodreads. I thought that it was a good book. I thought that, much like you said, so that's why I find this interesting, because I have a lot of the same comments.
Yeah.
But I gave it 4 stars, and you only gave it 2 stars. So
Okay.
My comments are similar. I thought it was poignant. I thought that the content and the material was really interesting because when I first read the description, I thought, oh, well, this must be set somewhere in the 50s because it's about a black nurse that gets basically stonewalled by these white supremacists, and that doesn't happen anymore. So it must be, set in the 50s. And then it was a contemporary novel, and I was like, whoa, And then Trump happened, and I was like, oh, yeah, that happens still. Now you know my political views. Anyway, I was disappointed with the ending, and I thought that it was a little too neat at the end. Everything wrapped up all pretty, and I didn't like that. But overall, I still think the book it brought up a lot of discussion. It got a lot of information out there about various different organizations, and yeah, so Shauna, what did you think?
Well, since you read my Goodreads, I gave it 5 stars.
They didn't.
They didn't?
I didn't, and they didn't.
The viewers haven't. So
Oh, there
tell
okay.
them.
I gave it 5 stars because to me, it was very life-changing for me, because it was less about the characters in the book, I think, and more about myself, because I realized just how prejudiced I am. And I'm one of these people who think that I'm not. Mm-hmm. So I almost thought maybe I was like Juror 12, who I'm not prejudiced, you know, and gets quite upset about that. But when I really saw some of the ways that Ruth was explaining to her lawyer about how she is being prejudiced too, I was racist. I was shocked. I was like, yeah, I do that too. I try to overcompensate, or go to the. I need to point out, oh, you're welcome here, instead of just treating the same as me. Mm-hmm. So, shocked, actually. I was. Yeah.
So that brings me to my question for you, Maya, actually, before we move on to my other question. Why did you dislike, we had similar comments, so why did you feel that this only deserved, say, 2 stars instead of maybe just taking 1 star off of it because of the ending?
I'm a really harsh star reviewer, I have to admit. So, there's only a few books that I give 5 stars to. So that already might change you a little bit. So the ending, for sure. I felt that the ending undermined a compelling story. And I also usually do my Goodreads a few days after I read a book, because I think some distance gives you time to think over. And while I think that she had good intentions, there was still a lot of cliches amongst the characters that I felt didn't make it.
Well, no, I did a lot of looking at definitions, and maybe that's what you do. But someone who's racist is someone who views themselves as better than someone else based on race or culture or whatever. I don't consider myself better than anyone for those reasons.
I have to just say right now, there is no such thing as race. Can we make sure that we put that out there?
Right? So, but I do consider myself bias is what I would consider, because I do have biases and stereotypes, and I think the reason Jodi put all of those biases and those stereotypes in there was because those are the things that we think of in our mind, and I think that makes us think a little bit more about the stereotypes that we put on other people based on their culture or their background or even their gender or sexual orientation or anything like that. So
now I agree with you. I think that, and that's what I said in the introduction, that I think she did a good job of writing to her audience. So I will give her that as a novelist. I like to think that she was doing that. Did any of you guys read her write-up at the end?
I did. Actually.
Okay, and did you read hers as well? Did that change you at all? So Jodi has about a 6 to 8 page sort of author, commentary for this evening, because I just don't want to come across as like a racist asshole just for saying one word that, can be either construed or is that way, actually. So I really liked that about the book. I really liked that the author gave us that chance to hear her thoughts going into the book. So, yeah.
I think we have a question that kind of feeds into that.
That ties into that, the whole idea of the white privilege and white guilt. John Paul says, it seems that white privilege and white guilt as forms of racial prejudice are major themes in the novel. How well did she handle those topics, and what kind of background research do you suppose?
We're live right now? Mm-hmm. Okay.
All right.
Well, welcome back. We're going to try this again. We're trying a bit of a different format, so hopefully it's going to work. And we are going to dive right into...
We were just talking about white privilege, and I think, Shauna, you had some stuff you were saying right before.
Yeah, that white people have a habit of helping and fixing people whom they deem other and inferior. This damaging pattern even has a name, white savior syndrome. The irony is that it serves mostly to reinforce ideas about white superiority and white goodness. Do you agree with that? I do.
Yeah? How come?
Well, in myself, anyways, because often if I'm around people like, or Native people, or, you know, African American or whatever, I will go out of my way to be extra nice instead of just being nice, just being who I am. I will be worried about saying the wrong thing and, you know, overcompensating, and I think I do that all the time. All the time. I don't know.
I'm going to play the devil's advocate a little bit because I love doing that. On the other side, again, I don't think it's fair that just because I want to help someone that I want to help someone, it means that I think that they're inferior to me. You know, if there's somebody, I don't know. And Kennedy, the same thing. Well, she would say, well, I don't see race or whatever. But, you know, if I'm nice to someone, it's because I care about them as a person, not because I think that they need a hand up because of the color of their skin or because they have a different culture or whatever.
And that could be because you're not... I think a lot comes from where you were raised or who you were raised by, and you might not be as prejudiced as Shauna, so that might be why it's difficult for you to see that. Can you see that historically, that we've had the white savior syndrome? Can you see?
Oh, for sure. I know
how that
it's out there.
happens?
I'm not saying that it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
I just think a lot of times people lump all white people in the same category, just like they lump all black people or all First Nations people or all Japanese people all in the same category, and you almost can't win. Now, it's not fair, but it's also the privilege that we have just by being born the way we're born. It's almost like you have to feel guilty because it's like it's okay if people think that of me because I'm so privileged, so I'll just suck it up. And is that fair? I'm not just asking the question. I'd love to hear what you guys think.
Oh, yeah. What do you think?
Deer in the headlights.
Get this
Or about other things.
Yeah.
I definitely think that there is a white savior syndrome, and
Stop being politically correct.
stop being politically correct.
Just
White people should die.
really.
So
Oh,
white
yeah.
skin,
Yeah.
blue eyes.
White people.
Wow.
Wow.
No, I think I definitely know that I was raised with prejudice. I've seen it many times. I think that the Western world thinks that we carry it on our shoulders, and the rest of the world is just floundering in being ignored and not really. I don't know. I don't know how to explain this, actually. It's such a hard topic for me to go into, but I definitely believe in the white savior syndrome, and I definitely think that it's pretty disgusting what white people do in the name of helping. It's absolutely disgusting what white people have done and what they continue to do in the name of helping, because that's what white supremacists are doing it. They are doing it in the way of helping their country. They are helping their country by getting rid of race and getting rid of, homosexuality.
See, but you're saying helping your country, not helping the person.
Mm-hmm. What do you mean?
Well, if I see that if I want to go down to the homeless shelter and give my time, that, let's just say, 99% of the people down there are First Nations. Does that mean that I'm prejudiced? I have, this superiority or thing because I'm helping Aboriginals who happen to be homeless.
Well, it depends on how you frame that. If you're saying, I'm going to go help those poor First Nations people because they're always so down on the luck because they're First Nations. And they can never actually figure out life because of who they are. Because they're First Nations, they're always drunks. And because they're First Nations, they're always poor. But if you say, I really don't like seeing homeless people in the world. I would really like to figure out this situation. I'd like to do what I can to help. I'd like to, make someone's lives better. Who can I help? And then you help someone who's right there, then no, you're not being prejudiced or you're not being racist. But if you're doing it to help a First Nations person, then yes, you are. And yes, you are saying, you're saying it because you're trying to save that group of people. Or, in this book's case, get rid of a group or, ultimately. That's Turk Bauer felt that certain groups of people should be gotten rid of. So that's where that lies, is how you look at it as well. I may know someone who every time she defines a person, she defines them by the color of their skin. So she'll say, that black girl I work with, or I work with at East Indian. Yes, that term was used, even though it's not a real term. I work with an East Indian, or, that person who was Native was really rude to me. And to define somebody by their character of their skin, you don't point someone out by that. Because that is defining them as a race, and there isn't a race. Like, it's just not something you should do. And if you're doing that, you're prejudiced. It's not how you should talk about a person. It's just not. But we do. It exists. And if you realize it exists and you sometimes acknowledge it as much as you can, then that's great. Honestly, I think you're doing something good. Turk Bauer was doing nothing good. And there are a lot of people who are doing nothing good. So while we sit here and worry about this, which isn't, again, a bad thing, I think it's those people that we really need to be concerned about. Those people who aren't ever critically thinking about these things. We're all okay now. We're all good, honestly. Like, we get through those pearly gates, and we're good because we are critically thinking about this issue, and we're saying, people should not be characterized by a social construct that divides people into a distinct group that has nothing to do with their heart, their brain, their, anything. And
I think that's
prejudice.
I think that critically thinking about an issue is and recognizing your own biases. Like, anytime you're in anthropology classes as a good example of that, when you take anthropology, when you study other cultures, you have to recognize your own bias in studying that culture and why you might interpret things one way based on your own personal understanding of the world.
But people like Turk honestly believe that they know the right thing. They honestly have studied under people that have taught them that this is the way it is. They've read books.
Now, we've talked about how this book
This is the way it
is really American, right? Like, and it really is. Especially, I really think Jodi Picoult took the Black Lives Matter. She brings up a couple of media instances that actually happened in the States that were really a big part of that. But, so we're going to talk about that. And it's almost like we can talk about it with a bit of distance, right? And feel a little bit safe. But I recently heard about a church here in town that talked about homosexuals and how they should be done away with, how it's wrong, how it's completely made up, how it's disgusting. And so, as we sit here feeling safe, especially in Olds, Alberta, like, we aren't babes with books in Calgary, we're babes with books in Olds, Alberta, that this type of targeting of a particular group that white supremacists do happens in this town. Mm-hmm. So that safety really isn't there, actually. And that's just something I want to make sure that our audience realizes, that this story was about an African American and the struggles that they've gone through for hundreds of years, due to white people thinking we could own them. But that, there's still changes that really need to be thought about in our own lives. And that's a question that I have is, were you encouraged growing up to question stereotypes, and do you question them in public nowadays? Or do you take the safe, polite card in situations?
I often take the safe polite card, mostly out of fear. I'd like to say, I think if someone, I definitely have called people out for being, like if they say something that is blatantly racist and I am judging someone by the color of their skin or their culture or sexual orientation or the fact that they're a woman or a man, I will call people out on that. If someone says something inadvertently or subconsciously not thinking about it, then I might be like, well, okay, clearly that person's not being all there, but I might not call them on it because I don't want to have that conversation.
Yeah.
And you said this book was life-changing for you. Does it make you want to take the polite safe card a little bit less and realize that by doing that, you're still playing into those?
I was different when I went away to university because I was so much wanting to fix all the redneckness that I had grown up with. So I so wanted to be the other direction, right? So I went a little overboard. But at the same time, now I'm not as passionate about standing up for people, and I should be.
Yeah.
I have done occasionally, I'll stop following someone on Facebook that says offensive stuff constantly, or...
But just putting them out of their life, is that dealing with the situation, or just, I'm just not going to hang out with
How many Facebook posts have we avoided in the past couple of years with the political situation in Canada and now in the States, where we just let these things slide, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, that's what it made me think about, that my own self, the stupid things I've said, and the times that I haven't said anything. Right.
Well, it was a deep topic tonight, and we totally didn't have enough time to kind of delve into it where we needed to, but I hope that we got all of you thinking about it a little bit more, and I hope if you haven't read the book, definitely read the book.
And my 2 stars doesn't mean don't read this book. I would recommend this book to people.
Yeah.
It is a personal choice. So to say my ratings, I think if I were, there's 2 different things there. I don't necessarily rate this as a good book, but everybody comes at it with a different reading perspective and a different perspective. So both of those things can really determine whether or not a book is meaningful to you, I'd like to say.
So a couple things coming up. Next month, we will be doing Amy Schumer's The Girl with the Lower Back Tattoo. So that's exciting. That's on February 9th at 7 o'clock on Facebook. We will have the technical difficulties worked out by then, so hopefully. Also, the Olds Municipal Library is doing a Read for 15 challenge. If you check out the library Facebook page, you can find out all about it. But basically, all you have to do on January 27th is read for 15 minutes and hashtag Read for 15 Olds. There is a competition of national libraries, and we want to be the most readerly town.
Olds Library is also giving away prizes for people that do tag themselves. So if you read for 15 minutes that day, you'd be entered to win prizes. Much like the one that some lucky people entered in this cup here. Yes. Thank you to our sponsor, Pandora's Books and Tea. People who liked and shared this month's event got entered to win $10 here at Pandora's, and I think we're going to do it again next month.
Yeah,
okay.
Every month.
So who wants to poll?
Let's get Shauna to poll.
Oh, I was just answering a question. It is Heather Herding.
Heather Herding.
Heather Herding. So Heather, if you're not watching right now, we will definitely send you a little message on Facebook. And someone just asked what the book was going to be again. The book we just did is Small Great Things by Jodi Picoult, and the one for next month is The Girl with the Lower Back Tattoo by Amy Schumer. So thank you all for joining us.
Thank you guys, and we're looking forward to February.